Parliamentary Member Majkic, Mr. Lisak, partners from the account project, ladies and gentlemen, friends, distinguished guests. The fight against corruption in Bosnia-Herzegovina remains a priority for the United States government, which is why I am very pleased today to launch USAID's new anti-corruption program. This 3-year, over $1 million program, the Anti-Corruption Civic Organizations Unified Network Project, also known as ACCOUNT, will bring together civil society organizations and media to work with and, when necessary, will pressure Bosnia-Herzegovina government sector actors to enforce and sustain anti-corruption reforms required for Bosnia-Herzegovina to qualify for membership in the EU and NATO. Through the ACCOUNT project, we will work together with all of you to help develop more effective NGO networks assembled around 5 thematic areas where we all know corruption can directly affect the lives of citizens: healthcare, education, the private sector, judiciary, and government. This project will seek to augment existing initiatives and create more coordinated, comprehensive, and publicly visible civic anti-corruption campaigns by encouraging a more coordinated NGO network. This network will advocate for better anti-corruption legislation and policies, stronger enforcement of those policies, and will further promote safe avenues for reporting corruption. We have invited here today government officials, politicians, civil society representatives, international donors, religious leaders, law enforcement and judicial officials, and of course the media. Such a diverse audience is important because corruption is a multi-layered and multi-sector problem that requires multifaceted solutions. Your presence here demonstrates your commitment to act against corruption. There is no doubt that corruption is a great challenge for Bosnia-Herzegovina, as it is for many countries in Europe. It is a challenge for us, the United States, as well. It is an even more critical problem when we consider the economic hardships facing the citizens of this country. I repeatedly hear from citizens, business people, and public officials wherever I travel throughout Bosnia-Herzegovina that corruption is a big issue that affects their lives. No matter where I am, I hear the same stories. The citizens of Bosnia-Herzegovina tell me they are concerned about corruption. So do local community leaders, and their concerns are not unfounded. For example, in terms of the public's perceived level of corruption, Bosnia-Herzegovina ranked 91st out of 183 countries surveyed by Transparency International in 2011, far behind the 27 countries of the European Union, and worse than in all of the other states of the former Yugoslavia. A 2011 public opinion survey showed that Bosnians believe corruption is not only a problem in public procurement and administration, but also in healthcare and education. Over 60% of the respondents said that the healthcare sector, where informal payments are commonplace, is corrupt. According to a 2012 report, 1 in 4 university students reported personal experiences of corruption in their universities. We could debate the results of the different reports all we want, but the fact is that many citizens in both entities and among all ethnic groups feel and say that there are serious levels of corruption in Bosnia and Herzegovina. The clear conclusion is that Bosnia-Herzegovina is seen by its own people as failing in the fight against corruption. Just as corruption is everywhere, so are its consequences. Corruption is a brake on economic growth, deters investors, costs jobs, encourages organized crime, and can even provide an opening for terrorism. Corruption destroys an equal playing field in the workplace and promotes an atmosphere of distrust and deceit. Corruption is the antithesis of the democratic values and principles we hold dear and corrodes the moral fabric of our societies. Corruption breeds cynicism. Perhaps worst of all, corruption dampens the aspirations of this country's young people. Corruption becomes even more distressing when citizens believe that nothing can be done about it. These attitudes prevail because citizens perceive little will to address the core problem in concrete ways. Fortunately, there are signs that citizens of this country recognize the problem and want something to be done about it. In fact, over the past 10 years, the percentage of Bosnia-Herzegovina citizens who cite corruption as one of the most serious issues of concern has risen dramatically and is now second only to jobs, according to the Center for Investigative Journalism and the Center for the Study of Democracy. This recognition demonstrates that citizens want something to be done about corruption. Therefore, I ask that you view my remarks today through the lens of urgency, partnership, and action. Of course, given human nature, corruption will always exist. The question is what can be done to limit it, turn people away from corrupt practices. To do that, you need the media to report actively and accurately on corruption. You need law enforcement agencies able to investigate corruption, prosecutors willing to take action, to take people to court, no matter their role in society, for corrupt practices, and a judiciary able to convict those who are guilty. In addition, there must be penalties strong enough to discourage corrupt actions and incentives that encourage people to serve the best interests of society first, rather than their own interests. The government should start by ensuring that the Bosnia-Herzegovina Agency for the Prevention of Corruption and Coordination of the Fight Against Corruption, known as the Anti-Corruption Agency, is well funded and fully able to do its job. I am pleased that the director of the Anti-Corruption Agency, Lisak, is here today with us. The agency's work is important for us, and I know that the work of the agency is a high priority for the European Union. Further delays in getting the agency fully operational will raise questions regarding the government's commitment to its own 2009-2014 anti-corruption strategy. For our part, the United States Embassy, we at the United States Embassy have supported and will continue to support many different initiatives to fight corruption. We have worked with NGOs advocating transparency in the health sector and on oversight in the financial sector. We have partnered with the RS Ministry of Education, which took on the challenge of addressing ethical standards at universities, and we encourage implementation of the recommendations that were developed. We have worked closely with the many dedicated professionals in law enforcement and the judiciary who are charged to battle corruption. Since 2007, the U.S. Embassy has trained over 600 law enforcement officers and prosecutors from the state, Federation, Republic of Srpska, and Brčko on law enforcement techniques related to corruption investigations and prosecutions and other related crimes such as money laundering. This year alone, we have trained 46 prosecutors from State, Federation, Republic of Srpska, Brčko, and cantonal prosecutors' offices on corruption prosecutions and on financial crime. The dedication shown by so many of our Bosnia-Herzegovina partners in these efforts is noteworthy. I am impressed by the growth of civil society activities and by the NGOs which have become more active in publicly fighting corruption by regularly monitoring and reporting on it. They are conducting useful research on corruption and partnering in the debate for legislative strengthening. While civil society's fight against corruption features valuable work, too often its activities remain uncoordinated. Collaboration between NGOs to address sector-specific fraud has been practically non-existent. The Account Project we are launching today will address this problem and provide a forum for civil society organizations and media outlets already devoted to anti-corruption work. Coordination and the joining of forces and capacities are essential in combating corruption. Of course, Account cannot eliminate corruption on its own, but it can be a valuable tool for you in this effort to eliminate corruption. Another very important aspect of a successful fight against corruption is leadership from political and government leaders. Therefore, I challenge Bosnia-Herzegovina's political leaders to speak out in favor of anti-corruption policies, to promote integrity from within, and to follow through by supporting and monitoring implementation of these policies. There is no doubt that citizens want clean government, and the political leaders must lead on this issue. Bosnia and Herzegovina and its entities have a legal framework that can serve as a basis for action. While better laws are always possible, stronger enforcement of existing laws would produce significant results. All levels of government within Bosnia and Herzegovina need to ensure that public procurement processes are fair and transparent so that companies win contracts based on quality standards and costs. Political party funding should also be more transparent. Political parties must not dip into public funds or government budgets for purely party activities. Those funds should be used to promote job growth, health care, better education, and the public's well-being. It is also important that the leadership of public companies and public institutions be based on merit and experience and not solely on party affiliation, which unfortunately seems too often to be the rule today. Public institutions should mandate ethical codes for all government employees to make it clear that corruption is wrong and it will not be tolerated. Conflict of interest laws are an essential element of fighting corruption as well. There are clear international standards and model texts that come from the UN, the EU, the Council of Europe, OECD, and others. It is essential that any revision of the laws of Bosnia and Herzegovina be done in a way that brings the country closer to these international standards. The current process has been confused and rushed and could potentially take Bosnia and Herzegovina's laws in the wrong direction. We and other international partners stand ready to assist the Parliament in ensuring any revision strengthens the fight against corruption. The fight against corruption fundamentally requires a commitment from the citizens of Bosnia and Herzegovina as well. Bosnia and Herzegovina needs a public unwilling to accept corruption, that holds public figures to account, and that is willing to vote out of office those whom they feel have not lived up to the highest ethical standards. Citizens and politicians need to communicate clearly to each other that cronyism, paying bribes, seeking bribes, and accepting kickbacks are not only illegal practices, but they harm the country morally, socially, and economically. And they are simply wrong. Fortunately, all of us here today share the same vision for Bosnia and Herzegovina as a prosperous country that is moving forward with its neighbors on the Euro-Atlantic path. The U.S. is fully supporting these aspirations and will continue to work with you as you strive to achieve these goals and as you take action to battle corruption. We offer you our support and partnership now through the Account Project to help succeed in the fight against corruption. Hvala na